I do, and I'm very pleased to learn that the moratorium that's intended for April 22nd is going to be directed toward a coalescence of various conservation groups, for this is a step in what I think is the right direction. They are responsive to the turbulence of society.
Don't you feel that youth has caused much of this change, though, through their dissent?
No, because it's the nature of young people to react with exuberance, and perhaps the old, over 30 generation do not respond with the demonstrations, but they nevertheless feel as keenly as youth.
But, Doctor, a lot of this dissent is destructive. For example, the burning down of the building in California. Surely you don't consider this good?
No, of course not. But you see, this, as a consequence of studies that have been done, really has very little significance in terms of the overall youth involved in these protests.
Well, perhaps it is true, Doctor, that only a small percentage of youth engage in these protests, but that doesn't help put back up the building in California. What can we do to control this small minority?
Well, it seems to me that the more administrators and civic-minded groups can be aware of the needs of youth and respond to them in constructive ways, it would seem that this would be the measure that would offer the most control.
I saw the guy inside of the store. One of them was beating the man over the head with a gun, you see, and another near the door. I guess he is the lookout man, and he just came right on out the door and was fixing to take a shot at me, and of course I went and stopped him right then.
You stopped him how? You shot him?
Yeah, I shot him a couple of times.
I saw people run around and it dawned on me that it was probably a robbery or something, and then I saw Mr. Kuykendall run out and shoot at one of the two people at that point, and the two suspects ran down an alley to my right. So at that point I just followed them and went down the alley. One of them ducked into an apartment house, and the second one got into a car, and this car I was able to follow for about half a block, and I got the license number and everything in the car. Circled the block and came back and gave it to the police department, and at that point I saw the man that Jim had shot. It's kind of ironic, he still had a wad of bills in his back pocket and he'd been shot twice.
Would you do it again?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Well, there'll be some 300 to 400, I would estimate, that are transferring. This number keeps changing because some of the men are changing their minds and backing out now. But as far as the quitting part of it now, the ones who stay here, of course, will be on layoff from Ford rather than actually quitting. Very few of the people really are taking a severance pay or anything of this nature. Some of the younger seniority men might. Those that'll stay here, as I said, will be on layoff. Most of them, they'll be eligible to draw some SUB benefits for about a year, and will still retain a number of benefit rights that they have as far as retirements and this sort of thing with Ford.
Mr. Ken Bainan, the Ford Department Director for the United Auto Workers, has criticized Ford Motor Company for not replacing the Dallas East Grand auto plant with another in the same labor market area. Do you agree with that viewpoint?
Very much so. In fact, Mr. Bainan himself has told me that Ford was assuring him up until not too long before this announcement was made that any shutdown of one of the older Ford plants would be to replace it in the same area with another plant.
Well, we felt that we needed some control in our profession. We have men in the state that they're acting as investigators. They have records. They have felony records. They don't understand the business, but they can go down and put an ad in the phone book, get a few calling cards printed up, and they become a private detective with no background for this type of work at all.
"22 years ago, the city of White Settlement was incorporated. With its incorporation came many problems, among which was a major flooding problem. For years now, the city of White Settlement has been known far and wide as a city that is plagued by its flooding problems. Here in the sleepy little creek of Farmers Branch, it becomes a roaring lion at times and floods some 6 homes over an addition that has some 35 homes in it. Quite a problem for those who live there. To see what the city has recently done, we talked with Mayor Pro Tem Bill Williams.
In the last few weeks, the city of White Settlement, with cooperation of the local property owners, have undertaken in the Bollinger addition a venture of about $29,000, of which about $7,000 is city funding, to actually come in and move the creek bed from one location to another to better facilitate its rapid flowing to get rid of the water to alleviate the flood.
One of the families living in this addition is the Theo Melton family. We talked with Mrs. Melton and asked her what it was like to be flooded every time it rained.
Well, it was a terrible shock to us because we hadn't ever been flooded before, and all we know to do is just get things up on bricks and try to save what we could.
How did you actually get out of the house?
Well, we waited out.
Last week when it came a 3-inch rain, what did it feel like not to have to evacuate your home?
Well, it felt very good, I'll tell you. We laid down, had a good night's sleep over it.
The reconstruction of Farmers Branch Creek will not solve all of the flooding problems in White Settlement. However, it will make a giant stride toward the solution of these problems. From White Settlement, this is Art Sinclair reporting for Channel 8 News.